Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Our study is related to an examination of college adaptive sports sponsorship and the role of cause-related marketing. My name is Anthony Montanaro, and with me is Nina Siegfried, Nicholas Swim, and Aaron Green. And I will toss it over to Nina to kind of talk about the background of our study.
Hey everyone, so to give you guys a little background on disability sport, we've seen that since the first Paralympic Games in the 1960s, adaptive sport offerings and participation have truly increased worldwide. In the 2016 Paralympic Games, which were the most recent Paralympic Games, hosted over 4,000 athletes, and that is in comparison to 400 athletes during the first Paralympic Games in Rome in 1960. With the international Paralympic movement really gaining momentum, there's also been an increase in community-driven offerings throughout the United States. For example, the National Wheelchair Basketball Association currently supports teams in over 44 states and has over 3,000 members. However, the growth that has been on the national and international level has not really been reflected on the intercollegiate athletic level in the United States. This comes as the National Collegiate Athletics Association aims to promote and support athletes with disabilities under its 5 pillars of diversity and inclusion. However, among its current 1,100 member institution, less than 0.5% have adaptive sport programs. And this is even though 19% of the post-secondary student body reports having a disability. We also seen that in the 2016 Paralympic Games, 40% of all athletes of the team were collegiate athletes. So we see that college truly is a driver of adaptive sports on the professional level, as well as the recreational level. Disability sports really provides a unique context because it does not attract the fan base that mainstream sports does, as well as it has a higher cost of involvement because of the additional equipment that is needed for adaptive sports, such as wheelchairs for wheelchair basketball, or guides even, that is additional staff for individuals with visible disabilities. Moreover, we see that there isn't really much support of athletic departments when it comes to funding adaptive sport programs. So these adaptive sport programs at the collegiate level are truly reliant on sponsorship as their majority funding, and it is seen as a vital capital for operation. Not only is it beneficial to the programs as it is an attainable alternative to help fund the programs, but it also offers an escape from sponsorship clutter and saturation for sponsors. And sponsors truly look for these programs where they can identify with the program and find some value congruency, which often is done by identifying the assets that the program have, whether that's intangible, so anything that cannot be touched, and also the tangible assets of the program, so anything that could be touched, such as signage or banners.
Thanks, Nina. So when we think about sponsorship opportunities for collegiate adaptive sport programs, we really want to think about it under the umbrella of corporate social responsibility. So corporate social responsibility is defined as a company's commitment to minimizing or eliminating any hurtful effects and maximizing its long-run beneficial impact on society. And what we're seeing in the sports world is that sports fans are asking more of the sport organizations. They're not just looking at them for entertainment, but they're looking at them to lead social issues, whether it's racial issues like Black Lives Matter, or pay equity like we've seen with the U.S. women's soccer team, or environmental concerns like we've seen with the Philadelphia Eagles Go Green campaign. When we think about corporate social responsibility, organizations have used two different strategies. They've used cause-related marketing and then social marketing. We're going to focus on cause-related marketing as a means and as a route for college adaptive sport programs to integrate with sponsorship. So cause-related marketing is defined by Atkins as an activity by which businesses and charities or causes form a partnership with each other to market an image, product, or service for mutual benefit. One of the first times we saw cause-related marketing was with the American Express Statue of Liberty Restoration campaign in 1983. And the sports world, we've seen an example with the sale of the Devin Still jersey with the Cincinnati Bengals. After his daughter was diagnosed with cancer, the Bengals partnered with the Cincinnati Children's Hospital to provide funding for the hospital. It also brought positive brand recognition for the Cincinnati Bengals football team. So we really see that joint benefit positive effect for both the consumers and the organizations with cause-related marketing. And as Nina noted earlier, the value congruency is a really important aspect as we're looking at the values of the organization and of the consumers and of the charities or causes. So our purpose of our study was twofold, really. One, we wanted to determine the unique assets of college adaptive sports programs. And then secondly, once we knew those assets, we wanted to see how those assets could be leveraged through cause-related marketing to increase the funding of college adaptive sport programs via the strategic sponsorships. Our research was driven by 5 different research questions. First, again, identifying those unique characteristics. Then second of all, we wanted to say, what are the methods that are currently being used by college adaptive sport programs to connect with potential sponsors? How are those connections being made? Third, what are the sponsorship inventory offerings used in sponsorship acquisition by college adaptive sport programs? Fourth, how are sponsorship funds used by college adaptive sport programs? And then fifth, what barriers do college adaptive sport programs face in sponsorship acquisition?
So next, how we went about going about answering these research questions, we utilized a 2-phase Delphi approach to improve data collection and really establish a consensus on these issues. We contacted 22 NCAA institutions who offer at least one adaptive sport program within their college program or within their college sports program. This occurred via email. Then we interviewed these participants via Microsoft Teams for phase 1 of the study, and then a survey was distributed during phase 2 of the study through the online survey tool Qualtrics. So for phase 1 of the study, as I mentioned, we conducted interviews. In total, we had 10 semi-structured interviews with collegiate adaptive sports personnel. Questions were asked related to sponsorship acquisition and how they really utilize their funds from the sponsorships that they receive money from. Inductive and deductive coding was leveraged to find themes. So really examining the transcripts from the interviews and placing the responses into various themes for phase 2 of the study. And then some of the examples of themes for research question 1 included associate with a disability-friendly network, contribute to social justice, and diversify sponsorship portfolio. And then for phase 2 of the study, we gathered those common themes from phase 1 and put them into the survey and distributed to 11 personnel. So the same people were contacted, the same 22 institutions were contacted, with us hearing back from 11 and redistributing the survey to them via Qualtrics. Participants were asked to rank themes based on the frequency of use within their respective program, and then means and standard deviations were examined to gauge and get a better understanding of how these programs are similar and different.
Thanks, Anthony. So to kind of review what we found from this Qualtrics survey, quick descriptive statistics here. Most programs have a wide range of athletes participation from 2 to 100, with around 26 is the mean that we found. Budgets, again, a wide range of budgets being utilized in this space. So from $0 budget to $500,000 with a mean score of 121,000. So again, that range could kind of really affect that overall mean that we found. But it is kind of important to understand that there is a wide structure base in regards to adaptive sport in the college setting. And lastly, they discussed the ability or demonstrated the ability of sponsorships as part of the revenue. So one program had 0% of their sponsorship regards to their revenue, and one program had 100%, with the average around 35. And if we see over here on the right, this just demonstrates where these adaptive sport programs are housed, which basically means sponsored from the university itself. So disability service, student services, recreation, campus rec, and academic units as the 3 most prominent areas. So getting into the research questions here, the first research question was answered by asking what the adaptive sport programs use to leverage their programs. And the two most important or most frequently used results from question 1 were impact the disability community and share compelling stories. If you notice here, there is a couple in between these two findings. However, their standard deviations were much higher than these two findings. Therefore, that would mitigate kind of the mean average that they found. Therefore, we found these as the most important two for this question. Moving forward into research question 2, we asked participants how college adaptive sport program to connect with their sponsors. And most frequently identified were community partners, continuous business relationships, and network. And if you see here, most of these standard deviations are consistent. Therefore, so we just select the top 3, and this is kind of throughout the rest of these research questions here. Research question 3 is how do you sponsorship acquisitions inventory offerings? So what are you providing your sponsors? And so the top 3 were social media posts, banners and signage, and tournament sponsors for research question 3. Research question 4, which are how are funds utilized from sponsorship? And so this was found as competition events, equipment, and scholarships themselves for athletes. And research question 5 asked participants the most frequency in regards to challenges they face in attaining sponsorship acquisition. And the top 3 here again were university bureaucracy, lack of program visibility, and small disability student population. We see these are a little bit lower than some of the other questions. However, that does make sense because challenges at one university might be faced differently at other universities. So it is important to kind of understand that process of challenges that you face at one space might be different at other spaces and forward in these programs.
To wrap us up, just a small discussion section. So we found that the most prominent intangible assets that these programs were able to leverage were, first of all, the community partnerships. It's really important for these programs to build these community partnerships and leverage them when they try to acquire sponsors. Moreover, within the partnership acquisition process, leveraging the idea of the impact that the program has on the disability community as well as the local community can be extremely valuable in attracting new sponsors. Lastly, compelling stories were most often used in order to sell the program to these sponsors. On the tangible asset side, we see that most programs, almost all programs, have social media accounts which they can use in order to co-brand with their sponsors. Additionally, banners and signage are usually being put up throughout their facilities as well as the events whenever they are hosting any events. So future teams and current teams really need to highlight and leverage the community impact that they have through cost-related marketing strategies, as well as use social media for really the free branding that they have, and also as a free co-branding opportunity with their sponsors. Lastly, sharing athlete and program success stories can truly have an impact on these sponsors and increase the sponsorship opportunities. Looking at the barriers and overcoming the barriers faced, gathering support to overcome especially institutional barriers and increase the visibility of programs is highly important. Hereby, the key stakeholders which are involved are, first of all, the administration, the athletic department, but also the NCAA legal support, such as the Amateur Sports Act or the United Nations Act on the Rights of People with Disabilities, as well as leveraging social media to kind of just press and push the agenda of increasing adaptive sport opportunities at the collegiate level. Moreover, looking at the small disability student population, which currently is a barrier, social media is also a powerful tool in recruiting athletes, as well as programs should work with admissions to identify individuals with disabilities and recruit those to campus. Thank you so much for your attention. We hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to any one of us.